This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, just another voice in the wilderness. Today, I want to talk about ideas have consequences. Even good ideas in the wrong hands and wrong minds can have devastating consequences. As everybody knows, ideas are a natural part of our ability to use our creative imagination. So there is nothing special about having ideas. We all have ideas to solve this problem, to solve that problem, to whatever it is. So ideas is part of our is by default part of human nature. But okay, not all ideas have consequences. We could say, because many ideas, just as they go, they expire as they come. So they do not they don't really have consequences. But there are many ideas. They can start in a humble way, and they have consequences. Uh, so what's the problem then? The problem with ideas, even excellent ideas, is that when they are when they get controlled by the wrong ends and minds, society and civilization and human communities and nature and everything can um, can be destroyed. And so it's not exactly the ideas that destroy are the are are responsible for the destruction. So ideas can be like technology, can be used to implement the lives, to make life easier, but it they also always have an impact, which means that when we introduce ideas, when ideas become popular, they always, like technology, they always have an impact. They always cause change, and that's why they are very powerful. They are not neutral. That technology, knowledge, ideas are not neutral. Therefore, they can be weaponized and used as tools to instrumentalize, to indoctrinate and instrumentalize people, entire societies, and civilizations. When they become, when they get controlled by the wrong hands and the wrong minds, by the wrong people, or which means the wrong groups, the wrong families, you know, the wrong individuals. And who are the wrong individuals? The wrong individuals are always, always the people that do miss the basic social traits of the human species, the traits that have been essential, crucial for the survival of the species throughout hundreds of thousands and or even millions of years, which are empathy, compassion, cooperation, reciprocity, trust. Okay, these traits have been are essential for the success of any social species. And since our species are not only deeply social, but is a cultural species, a species that creates and that manufactures an environment, a sociocultural environment that doesn't exist in nature. It's an artificial environment, but is our environment. That's where we live. That's how our minds are shaped. That's how our identity is built, which means that how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive the outside world, how we perceive others, how we perceive and value or everything that is as around us in the natural environment. So, which means how we build relations with others, with animals, with nature, with everything that exists, even the cosmos, what we believe we are. Where did we come from? Why do we believe that we are separated from nature, from the rest of life, of the living community? As religion tells us that we are uh, 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 of a different kind. Why do we have this dualistic perspective that we have culture versus nature in a war with nature, not culture in the web of nature, and humanity in the web of life, as it should be? This come from ideas. Those ideas can be good, can start as good ideas, but once they get controlled, manipulated, distorted by the wrong minds, so they are in the power of the wrong ends and groups, they will be used for social engineering, sociocultural engineering. And therefore, we build societies, dysfunctional societies, that based on a web of deceit that is used to grab power and wealth, to build a pyramid scheme where we all live, and it gets acceptable. It becomes normalized and naturalized, and therefore we just think that's the reality, and we just don't see how deep propagandized we, because this is the problem of indoctrination. This is the instrumentalization of moral values, okay? And therefore, uh, And therefore it is important that we understand this, that we understand ourselves as, okay, we are a different species to a certain extent, and that's a huge responsibility in understanding in a holistic way, in a very comprehensive and deep way, who are we? What are? Then how can we explain and describe the nature, the sociocultural nature of the human condition, and why that matters if we want to build a society and a civilization that, instead of dehumanizing us, instead of transforming us and commodifying and weaken us through the addiction to convenience, just we build a culture of true liberation and cooperation with each other. A truly universal um, um, uh, universal, not human rights, but human understanding of who we really are. Okay? That we cannot exist. We do not exist. We know nothing about ourselves outside of some sort of indoctrination and instrumentalization. And the problem is exactly those who understand that they can use the they can weaponize ideas and therefore create a morality and use it as an instrument for sociocultural engineering and ideological and political and economic engineering to enslave us, to transform us into expendable peons, into useful idiots, and cannon fodder for sure. And we, if we do not understand that it's all that these narratives, these ideas that are conveyed, that are disseminated through narratives, through language, using language framing and rhetorical tools, they are very powerful because they go directly to the very core of the human nature, which is our subconscious mind, our cognitive affective systems, and then we just become, while we think that everything is our responsibility, that we have free choice and the power of free decision, and we are rational beings, which is not true. I mean, it's true that we can use reason, but most of the time we just use logic. Okay? We don't care to really have a deep critical analysis, a comprehensive analysis, critical analysis of the premises, of the axioms, of the supposed facts through which we derive our conclusions. So, most of the time we just follow a certain logical based on our exactly the dominant narratives, which are the dominant ideas that are the tools, the cognitive tools we use to analyze reality. Okay? Because we use ideas as tools to analyze other ideas. And the information, all the types of information that exists outside. That, by the way, being exposed to the environment where we live, it's not necessary anything else. We are immediately being indoctrinated and instrumentalized just by being exposed, because our systems are processing this information and store it as patterns, okay, to be used to identify other patterns. This is as maps, or as whatever you want to call it. So therefore, if people you would understand that human beings are domesticated beings, that we do not exist without indoctrination and without instrumentalization, therefore it's very important to understand that it matters a lot what kind of indoctrination and instrumentalization. Can we really have an indoctrination process, call it education or whatever, and an instrumentalization process that allows us to be more, to build a more resilient critical system, to become conscious, by being more conscious of the process by which we acquire knowledge and acquire templates and frames of mind with which we understand and perceive ourselves and the world and relate to each other and the world. Yes, we can, of course. That's for sure we can. But it doesn't happen, it's not discussed, because then we would have the intellectual, cognitive, and intellectual and spiritual tools to make the existing system irrelevant, which means that it would lose the ability to control us, to mentally control us. And that is important to understand. That's how we are controlled without knowing, without being aware that we are controlled from within. We can have these problems in small communities because because individuals lacking the minority, the exceptions, lacking the basic traits that are part of the human condition, which I said they are compassion, empathy, the need to cooperate and reciprocate, and the need to trust each other. It was crucial for the survival of the community. Okay? And it is true that in small groups and tribes and indigenous peoples, that they will have also people that lack these traits, and they might try to control, because they don't, since they are opportunists. They go for different their projects, since they are sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissistic, opportunistic. Their own objectives become more important, for sure, than the rest, the objectives of the group, the collective well-being. And therefore, they do not care to put the collective well-being and even the existence of the community into jeopardy. This is true for small groups as well. But when we grow, we become, when it comes to build, to settle in larger groups, okay, and start building cities and practice agriculture, then it is the right environment for the creation of the Ponzi scheme, of this pyramid scheme with rigid hierarchies. In some cases, in other cases, they are more fluid, okay? But this is the people that then they go to the top. And even when you get a good king or a good emperor, a good ruler, okay, that can happen, all right? But the ones that will succeed them, the ones that will end up controlling the system, will be those, the exception, those with that lack the traits, the core traits of a social species, of a deep social species, which are the psychopaths, the sociopaths, the narcissists, the megalomaniacal opportunists, okay? And this is what happens. This is what has been happening since the invention of what I would call the imperialistic civilizational paradigm, which is the one that is still dominant. It is everywhere, okay? I mean, we know that our Western model of this imperialist civilization, it is probably the top. It is not probably, it is the top tier in terms of destruction and the criminal behavior, and I mean, it's horrible, all right, okay. But the others, the Chinese, the others that don't exist anymore, they just exist as remembrances, as remains, as archaeological remains, you know, like temples and pyramids and this and that. They all were based in the same principle, okay? That we have a large population of expendable peons, all right? Not as expendable as today, because since the world was a more spacious place, they could run away. So therefore, it was not, they were not expendable as today. That's why we have been bringing slaves to the plantations in the America, in the North America and South America and elsewhere, okay? They were expendable in the sense that, just imagine, the slaves that they were carried from Africa to the Americas would maybe probably just reach there, half of them. They were dying. Most of them, or at least half of them, were dying during the journey. So they were expendable. They were very important, crucial for that type of economy, but they were expendable. You know, they were also used as a cannon fodder. So this is a civilization based on the negation of humanity. This is a civilization. This is a very sophisticated civilization. All right. We can build technological wonders, you know, and you have such splendid, wonderful, fascinating arts, music, architecture, engineering, poetry, literature, philosophy. Yeah. And these people that keep saying that we stand on the shoulders of giants, no, we stand on the shoulders of the little people. That's where the imperialist civilizational paradigm stands. That's where it stood. It stood since its inception. And this is a humanizing process. This is a process that robs us of our humanity. That instead of allowing us to develop our humanity, they develop the traits on us. They make us adapt and adopt survival strategies that transforms us into functional sociopaths and crooks that silence our moral voices to become successful, to have successful careers, to achieve our societal objectives, to become successful, to become famous, to become celebrities, to become politicians in higher places. And this is the corruption comes from the core. It is a feature of the system, not only capitalism, but also from the very nature, the very structure of the imperialist civilizational paradigm. And we need to understand that if we want to move to a more humane, to a true ecological civilization, which I call it not only ecological, but it has to be holistic and based in an economy, a socio-ecological economy, not an ecological economy. It's not about ecological economics. It's about socio-ecological economics, political economy. An economy that needs to serve its purpose, which is a sufficiency and reciprocity economy. And this is, we need to discuss this. We need to come to grips with this. Not just, this is not as I keep repeating it, this is not only about understanding it as at the intellectual or academic level, all right? It is to understand it. It needs to be a process, a conscious transformative process that goes deep into the roots of the indoctrination and instrumentalization, that allows us to consciously indoctrinate us and instrumentalize us with the ideas, okay, and the culture of true liberation, a culture of true universal principles and values, okay, to respect the dignity of humanity, but also the dignity of life, that we understand ourselves, we understand our humanity as being part of the web of life, and to understand and develop a culture that is not culture versus nature, but culture in the web of nature. That's how we survived over these principles and values without knowing, without necessarily being aware of them, that we survived as a species. That's our roots. It's not, this is not about, we can still have a technological civilization, but a humanized technological civilization, not being ruled by technoscientism and technofixism, which are the dominant narratives today, the dominant doctrines, the dominant religions. And then we have a political system which is technocracy. Okay? And we are about to create the conditions for technofascism, transhumanism. What for? Cui bono? What is the goal? The goal is because even good ideas, all right, even good ideas, when they become controlled by the wrong ends, the wrong minds, the wrong groups, they become tools of oppression, tools of destruction, tools of annihilation. And that's where we are. That's what we are paving. That's the way we are paving, by collaborating with this bunch of sociopaths and psychopaths and narcissists, megalomaniacal opportunists, that are the ones that represent, that are the ones that are, that the oligarchs and the plutocrats and the elites and the status quo in general, that's what they are. There are exceptions, but still the ones that have that represent the pillars of power, the structural power, are those that are our true enemies, the enemies of humanity, the enemies of life, the enemies of any spiritual, of what spirituality should mean for us humans, which is the respect for life, the deep respect for life and nature, and to perceive humanity as part of it. Okay, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.